afternoon, good day, good to everyone that's listening today. I know that we air all over the world, so we don't know the time zone in many places, but here in the United States this morning, I just want to welcome you to another episode of Reveal and Heal. And we say you can heal what you won't reveal. Reveal
That's
and
right.
Heal is a safe space for you to be able to come and share what the Lord has done and what He is doing, because these are raw stories that people have gone through, and they're unbridled about sharing because they want to let people know God did it for them. He will do it for you. And of course, we're going to air as a podcast, but we're going to also air on Really Real Radio.
Mhm.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you already know, overcomers, what you'll need to do in order to hear on Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. You're going to hear this amazing storyteller, the beautiful Michelle. Y'all, first of all, before I let her tell y'all who she is, I want you to go ahead and tag your friends, tag your family, tag everyone that you know that need a motivation word, because we are here to encourage and to inspire. Y'all, when you lay eyes on this beauty, you're going to be like, I just know her story cannot be that bad, because this sister don't look like what she's been through, ladies and gentlemen. And that's how God does it. He does it so good to where when you come out of a situation, you don't look like what you've been through. Now, you may have a scar that you recognize, and that's just to remind you that God did it.
Hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and show your love for the beautiful Michelle. Sister, come on in. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, listen. I'm amazing. I'm so glad to have you with us. And I didn't tell everybody about your amazing resume. I did not tell everybody about, all the things that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, this sister is a serial businesswoman. And
I
she is
love
a
that.
mother. She is
Cereal.
a wife. She is a full-time minister. She is doing it all. And I'm going to let her share with you who she is and what it is that she does. Y'all pay attention, because I want y'all to make sure that y'all are a part of everything she got going on. This sister's an author. And I didn't tell y'all the theme for this session is nobody ever told me. That is the name of her book. Y'all, I'm so excited. I'm telling you. That is the name of her book, which y'all got to read. Michelle, please come in and just, girl, listen, take your time. Tell everybody who you are, what you got going on, and you got to explain that thing, that title right there. Nobody ever told me.
Yes. So my name is Michelle Elizabeth Williams. I am the author of Nobody Ever Told Me. Yes, I am a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a nana. I'm all of the above. I'm a business owner. I'm an actress. I'm an evangelist. I'm a motivational speaker. I speak into people's lives so they can be healed, changed, set free by the things that hold them bondage or keep them captive in their lives. Also, the book Nobody Ever Told Me, for me, walking, actually being born. I sometimes always say I feel like I was born a threat to the enemy. Nobody ever told me that I was coming into this world to go through the things that I had to go through and to come out. Nobody told me. Nobody really ever told me from a child. See, when you're a young child, you're being told this is the way to go and that's the way to go. But because I was so abused, I was never told which way to go. I was always making my own decisions. By the time I got 9 years old, my mom used to send me to go get cigarettes for her. And at 9 years old, I said, I can go to the left or I can go to the right. I was making my own decisions at 9. I moved out on my own at 14. It was like I didn't even know how to cook when I was 18 and my pregnancy with my daughter. I did not know anything. Nobody ever really told me the path of life. It was until I really came into myself to where I really started learning. And when I got into therapy and started getting myself together, reintroducing myself to myself, is when people started telling me this is the way to go. I had to like really literally finagle my way through life for a very long time. And nobody ever told me that I was going to go through this much abuse, this much hurt, this much pain to come out on the other side. Nobody ever told me that all that pain was going to produce all this power to help people, to bring them out of the same things or worse that they've been through, that I've been through. That's where that comes from.
When you think about the things that you went through as a child,
Hmm.
how do you feel being an adult? Do you feel like you were forsaken as a child? Do you
Yes,
understand
I
the path?
was. Yes, I was. Yes, I believe that I was. The thing was, I had parents, but my parents, to me, they didn't protect me as a child. They didn't cover me as a child. They didn't tell me that they loved me as a child. And when I was abused, they didn't comfort me as a child. They didn't give me Christmas as a child. When I was being teased and bullied at school, they didn't protect me in that either. When I had plays in school, when I would run really fast because we used to always be outside running in the backyard, and I was going to be picked up for the Special Olympics, there was no real parenthood in that. Now, this is not to knock them. The thing is, the reason why I say that is because as I was growing up, they were still not healed from the things that they were going through. So because they were not healed, they couldn't properly take care of me that I could be whole in my young life.
Oh, that's good right there. Oh, that's good right there. Ladies and gentlemen, just sit in that for a moment, because a lot of us are still battling with unforgiveness when it comes to our parents. And our sister just made it very clear. They didn't know.
Mhm.
And then what happens? They do the best they can. Then what, right? Of
Mhm.
course, we still battle with some unforgiveness. We still battle with sensitivity. We still battle with that pain because it takes time to heal. It takes time. Now, I want you to get into that, the time of healing, the process of healing. But share with us how the book came about and what's in the book, because they got to go get the book.
Yes. So the book came about because at the age of 18, I just started writing down all the things that was inside of me. So when I was younger, I started being sexually molested at 4 and 5 years old. And I remember the earliest memory of that was, you know, the guys that we call uncle, who's really not our uncles, but they pacify it and they give you family that's really not yours. This guy that we called uncle had me over at his house with his wife, and she said, "Girl, where's your t-shirt?" Because we were supposed to be, I guess they were going to take us somewhere. And where's your t-shirt? And I remember being so little, and I said, "I don't have one." And I remember this older lady walking up the stairs with her back kind of curved, maybe some little osteoporosis or something. And I'm down there with this elderly man. He had to be in his 70s. And as she's walking up the stairs, he's looking. He's got his two hands on my arms. He sticks his tongue in my ear. He takes his other hand and puts it on my private, and his other hand he's got on my flat chest, and he's rubbing me. And that was the first form of, abuse that I can remember sexually. And I remember standing there crying, and being 5 years old, there was a kid from across the street that, my mom was in the house, she was cooking. He had me in the backyard and he put me on a tree. And I saw some white stuff come out and I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's milk." But the milk that I've experienced was good in the cereal. The milk that I experienced was the kids on TV saying milk does the body good. But here, this milk that I experienced made this young man's mother cry. It made my mother upset to where she drugged me across the street and made me stand tall to tell this young man's mother what he did to me. See, that to me At that time, I feel like my mom was very angry and she wanted to protect me, but she wasn't there to protect me because she was upstairs in the house and I was 5. And I think that really hurt her that she couldn't really be there to protect me. But when it was all said and done, I came back across the street and I just remember, my mom, why did you tell me? Why did you tell me? And a lot of that just inside of me made me want to tell things, but didn't know how to tell.
Couldn't
Because
put
when
it into words.
you feel the pain of the perpetrator's parent, and then you feel your parent hollering at you, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And you're only 5. It's like all these mixed messages going inside. It's just something to deal with. So by the time I got older, so let me say this, 4 and 5 years old, sexually molested. My last punch in the face was by my alcoholic father. When I was 15, I watched a murder. Uh, by the time I was 18, I was dating this guy who secretly smoked crack cocaine. He was selling everything out of the house but the ice trays. Now, if you would have bought it, he would have sold it. He would have took those. By the time I was 20, because I stopped telling things and I held everything in, I had a nervous breakdown. And here I was in the car with my children. And because he was on crack cocaine and life was so bad, we were starving. I had to nurse my children. I wasn't even eating. I was 138 pounds. And I continued to nurse my children just to make sure that they didn't go without food. Extended the time for them to nurse just to make sure that they ate. Well, I didn't want to leave my children with him. So I was in this class called First Step. And this one young lady started crying. And when she started crying, I started crying with her. But I didn't know the reason why I was crying. And I was crying for all the years of torment that I never, ever dealt with. All the years of torment that I could never tell anybody what was happening to me. All these years. And when this happened to me, that's where a breaking point came. And my first time I got out of the hospital, literally lost my mind for 3 days. When I got out of the hospital, I went to a church and one of the sisters said, I didn't know it was that bad. Why didn't you tell anybody? And I literally cried for 7 days straight because I was so oppressed. I had skipped depression. I was so oppressed that I just cried and cried and cried. And at that point, I began to start talking. And at 18 on, I just was writing everything down, how I was feeling, because that was the only way that I could let things out without exposing the people who did what they did to me or who was doing doing the things to me that they weren't supposed to be doing. Because early on, my mom had beat me with an extension cord. This was probably 10, 11 years old around that time. Not exactly sure, but somewhere around there. She beat me with an extension cord and I went to school and I told the nurse at the school, I had whelps all over me and she brought me home. And when she brought me home, she told my mother, Michelle said you hit her with the extension cord. And she looked at me and she said, what? I did what? That must have been her father. And I looked at her like, Mom, no, that was you. She said, no, I did not do that. That had to be your father. That was not me. By the time she was done, I was confused. I was wondering, well, who did do it? I knew it was her. But she called my father and she said, Missy told the school that you hit her, you beat her. Well, they made him stay out of the home for 2 weeks. When he came back after them 2 weeks, he beat me so bad that I knew I could not trust the people at the school. I couldn't trust the people at the store. I couldn't trust the pastor at the church who tried to kiss me. I couldn't trust his alcoholic friends who were sexually touching me. I couldn't trust nobody. And I didn't know who Jesus was to say, I trust you. Because it was dark. It was a dark place between the beatings and being touched and all of these things. Nothing gave me light. Nothing gave me light. So the only thing that helped me was when I picked up a pen and began to write how I was feeling, because that's the only way that I can get things out.
Did you deal with nightmares?
Um, when I got older, well, let me tell you this, the nightmares, not because of that, because I learned how to deal with all of that pain.
Gotcha.
I learned how to cover things up and go out and smile, because you know what goes on in this house, what it stays in this house, right?
Right.
My thing is, no, I didn't have nightmares growing up. Not that I could really remember. But what I did do is I went through something where me and an individual were together for quite a while.
Right.
And for 8 months we hadn't been together, sleep together, or nothing. They live where they live, I live where I live. And then one night I was laying on the couch and there was a shadow in my children's room. And the first name I called was theirs, because I didn't have people in and out of my home. So there was no answer. So I took off running because it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a dead sleep. I took off running and I heard footsteps behind me. As I heard these footsteps, I ran downstairs into my sister's apartment. And, because we lived in one of those apartments upstairs and downstairs, I ran around her bed and I looked and I saw, and it was him. It just shocked me. I ran out into the hallway and I began heaving. He was like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Next thing I knew, I didn't know I was being raped. So I was at knife point on the living room floor. And he said to me, with the knife sticking right here, he said, "Do you love me?" And I shook my head, yes. And he said, "No, you don't, because it doesn't feel the same." So he gets up, he zips his pants up. I'm still laying on the floor at this point. He zips his pants up and he said, "While you were laying on the couch," he said, "I was going to slit your throat." He said, "But I don't do those things no more." And then he walked out the house. Now, me in my mind, I just could not wrap this thing around my head, what just happened. I just could not believe it. And I couldn't move off the floor. I was afraid to go in the room, because when he said that about slitting my throat, I thought, did he do something to my children? I was just so paranoid. I was so afraid, but I didn't move. I laid there the whole night. Then finally I got up in the morning and I walked in the kids' room and they were okay. And I exhaled. I was okay. Then at this point, I was really mad. I went around the whole house. How did he get in? Because the doors are locked. I don't play about locking the doors. My sister, every night, we always make sure the front door's locked, back door's locked, the windows are locked. How did he get in? All of a sudden, something says, "Look up." And I looked up and there's a little attic space, a little crawl space. I push it up. And when I looked in there, there was bowls, spoons, forks, books, blankets. This guy was secretly living in my attic for 2 months without me knowing it.
No.
Yes. And I could not figure out how he was getting my information and throwing it back in my face. I was thinking, is my sister telling him stuff? How is he finding out this stuff, Not knowing that, like, right above me, that's what he was at. He was supposed to be living in a shelter, but he had got kicked out of the shelter. And I did not know that he was secretly living in my attic.
Oh my gosh.
That right there, now you talk about nightmares and torment, that threw me into a whole world of torment. So yeah, you know what I would dream about? Because I took a little black marker now and I marked that little crawl space. I would dream that the crawl space marker was moved. I mean, I lived in so much torment. And that was just another page of my painful life that I had to go through.
How long did you go through that?
Years. and years and years. The reason why I probably went through it for years was because back then in my 20s, it was like I didn't have, who could I tell? When I
Right.
called the police to tell the police, he was an informant for the police. So they were using him.
He was a snitch.
Yeah. Yep. Because he was on drugs. So
Right.
they used
Yeah.
him for the people. When it came from my protection, there was no protection for me. None at all. So when I reported him, guess what? He was still out on the street. So no, there nothing for him. Nothing.
Jesus, you suffered in silence, dear.
I suffered in silence.
Excuse me.
I couldn't tell anybody. And when I did tell people, they'd be like, oh my God, oh my God. But have you gone to counseling? Has anybody, at this time, I was in church, but at that time it was like, you know how it is.
I
You just,
do. I grew up in
with
church.
it.
You didn't grow up in church, right?
Right, I did not.
So
Even
it
though I
was
went to
even more
church.
challenging for you though, Michelle, because you were
Yeah,
trying to find your way about the whole church system. It's one thing to grow up in the church and know how things move and know how things work. But when you are new, oh my
well,
God, that could be another devastating situation.
I did go to church at 13, right?
Okay.
My parents sent me over to this little church. And because I wanted to be something, I knew I was going to be something. I just didn't know what that something was.
Right.
I always felt it. And the pastor said, I want you to be my secretary. And I was so excited. Somebody needed me for
Somebody
something.
needs
Right?
you.
Meet me downstairs after church. I went downstairs into the pastor's office after church, and they were out there serving food out there, in the dining room. I went there, I stood there, I was so happy. I couldn't wait for him to give me my position. And he grabbed me by my arms and he pulled me to him and he tried to kiss me, tried to stick his tongue in my mouth. When he did that, I leaned back like I was the Matrix. And I said, no. And as I said no, I took off towards the door. Somebody was opening up the door. And when that door opened, I ran through that
You were
door.
gone.
I ran through that door and ran through the other door to get out. And I never went back to that church.
All these safe spaces, you were being abused.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Every last one of them. Every last one. You want your parents to protect you. There was no protection. There was no love. You want the man that you so-called love to protect you, but he was cheating on me, just out there messing with my friends, doing all kind of stuff, on drugs, selling everything out of the house. There was nothing there. And here the thing was, I thought if I loved him beyond life, because I thought maybe at home they were doing something wrong. If I loved him beyond life, he would give it back to me. I was ironing his underwear, ironing his socks, having his children, doing what I needed to do for the family, learning how to cook. His dad taught me how to cook. Learning how to cook. I did everything that I thought was right. And that didn't work. I went to the church. That didn't work. There was no counsel. Where I was just lost. By the time I got to 20 or somewhere around that age, it was easy to have a nervous breakdown. It was easy for the crazy thing was when I sat in the hospital, my mind shifted. I mean, literally, I watched my mind slipping and it sat as it was moving.
Yeah.
It was black in front of me. My mind was sitting in a box. And as it was moving, I said, Lord, please don't let me lose my mind, please. And it stopped and it sat there. Let me tell you something. It sat there in that square for 3 days.
Did you remember anything for those 3 days?
Yep. I remember the doctor coming through talking to me, and I had to look at him through the square So it would look like I was crazy. It would literally look like I was crazy because everything in front of me was pitch black. Everything in front of me was pitch black. And there was this square. It was like my mind floated off to the side and there was a square. And the doctor would come in and talk to me. And I was trying to act like I was normal. And I said, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. No, I'm good. And he said, no, you're not. You're not good yet. You threatened to kill yourself and your children. Because I was going to drive me.
You don't remember that though, do you?
I do.
You do?
Yeah. What happened was when I was sitting at that table crying,
yeah,
I told my sister, take my children, because I feel like I could drive into a tree to kill myself and the kids would be in the backseat. I wanted to kill all of us because I did not want to leave my children with my parents who did what they did, you know, and I didn't want to leave it with him who was on crack cocaine. And I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a community. I didn't have anybody I could trust that I could leave my babies with. So I was going to take my life and theirs. So when the doctor came in and said, no, you're not okay. You threatened to kill yourself and your children. The square box, all I saw myself doing was screaming and kicking on the floor, screaming and hollering and kicking on the floor, just kicking and screaming. That's all I could do. And I watched it from the box.
The box.
The box.
Oh God, this is such an interesting story. The grace. But you know, we all have a story, sis. We all have a story of overcoming, right?
Yeah.
It's like I just believe that there are so many that are listening and they're like gasping, sitting on the edge of their seat because you're telling a story of something that is true, but yet you're in such a great place. You made it. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, how did she make it? Oh, okay. So I want you to, let's talk about the transition, you know, to how you were able to get out of there.
So
that place of darkness.
That took a while too, because see, the thing was, I started dating another guy. So here's the thing. When you're not totally whole, you pick up anything that looks like it could protect you. Right. I want it to be protected. So my protection, I thought, would be in this guy that I went to school with, which I vowed to never date anyone from my hometown. But there I did it. So anyway, I thought, well, this one is trying to kill me over here. The ex was trying to kill me. He's, you know, he wanted to try to get back with me, but I couldn't even go back that way. So me and this other guy started dating, and that was not a good relationship. So I got into a rebound relationship, which was just not what I wanted. You know, I wanted to go to church. He wanted to gamble. He wanted to do his things. We were two separate people going two separate ways. And I loved him, but I was not in love with him. So it made a huge difference when it comes down to relationship. So I didn't want to be just thriving or just surviving in a relationship. So it just wasn't healthy for neither one of us, you know? So that marriage ended. After that marriage ended, this is where the healing began to take place, because I vowed at this time, I'm not just letting anyone in my life. And I started taking out some me time. I took out me time to learn about me, to see what Michelle liked, to see what Michelle wanted. And as I was doing that, I created space and places for me to go and good people for me to talk to. And as I changed my thought pattern on what I wanted for life, that's when I started attracting people that could help me heal my life. But as long as I stayed in darkness and stayed with the foolishness and stayed in the bad relationship and just kept doing things that looked like what I grew up in,
Yeah.
It didn't give me the opportunity, even though I had people kind of like helping me, trying to like, get out of there, don't do that. But when you're on your own and you've taken time for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to learn about who this individual is,
Mm-hmm.
instead of always pouring out. Because when you're abused, you always want to just give, and you want to give, and you want to give, and you want to give, because somewhere in return, it feeds a need. It feeds the need. It takes care. It makes you feel good. And I want it to feel good. But I also needed to feel good for myself. So what I started doing is taking the stuff that I was giving to people, and I started giving it back to myself and
Gotcha.
giving it to me, so I could feel good about both ways. You know what I mean? And
Gotcha.
at that point, it opened up doors for people to really start coming into my life that were good people like myself. And I didn't change to be anything any different. I just changed my thought pattern,
Wow.
changed my ways, and I changed the things that I did throughout my days to make my life better. And if that meant exempting people from my life, so be it. Because at this point, I couldn't afford another nervous breakdown. I couldn't afford the stress, and I just couldn't afford not being there and being present for my children, because now they were getting older and their eyes were on me. Everything was on me. And I didn't want them to live through what I lived through. Because when the pressure is on you, going through all of these things, your children can relive what you live because you haven't broken the cycle
Right.
of that abuse.
Right.
Abuse is abuse, whether it's physical, sexual, mental, it's abuse. And the kids didn't deserve that. Now, let me tell you, I was not the best candidate for this position, but I sure was a work in progress. And I stayed a work in progress because in the back of my mind was, my kids cannot come out like this.
Wow.
Did I make mistakes along the way? Yes, I did. Was I the top greatest, world's greatest mom? No, I was not. But if you ask them, they'll feel like, Mom, you was the best.
Right.
Or was I tight on them? Was I hard on them? Did they regret all of that? Yes, they did. But now that they're older, they go, Mom, you know, I'm glad that you was hard on me. I'm glad that you didn't let me run. And I'm glad that you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Because the stories that they hear from their friends or the things that their friends are going through, they didn't have to go through that. But my thing was, I didn't want to release them to be abused at all by anyone else.
By anyone.
Anyone. So I sacrificed. But the good people that came into my life, they helped me. And that was my pastor. Her name was Pastor Armour, and her sister, Sister Hopgood. And then God gave me a lady that was an outlet. Her name was Joan. Then I met my guardian angel, Miss V. I didn't have money. I didn't have anything. Miss V came along and she helped me in so many ways just to help raise my kids. She would pop up at my door with donuts and food and all the things that you would hear about. Like, that was happening to me. And then the one that came, that was a therapist. When she came, she had 3 masters, and boy, did she pour into me. And then the pastor poured into me spiritually. I mean, I was getting so much of the good stuff that I needed that it was ooze. All the stuff that was inside of me was like oozing out. All the stuff that I needed to get out. But still, even in the midst of that, there's still residue that you have to do the work on.
You got to do the work.
Residue will live in you and make you bow down to it if you don't deal with it. And I had to deal with it. The fear, the torment, all of that stuff for years. And even to this day, I can't even lie to you. because that did happen to me, it does make me more leery of what's around me when I sleep. Even though I sleep more peaceful, when I sleep, every once in a while, I still sleep with one eye open. Like if I hear something, don't think it don't make me, look,
Yeah.
because that's just something that took its toll on me. But it doesn't rule me the way it used to. It doesn't do that anymore.
You know what's fascinating? Of course, you being so young, but yet so strong, how you beat the odds, how you pressed in a way to survive, to live, and you had something to want so bad, and that was a different life for your children.
Mhm.
You know, I am just so intrigued with how you, I mean, you was dogmatic when you recognized, a position that you were in with the person that you were dating, that was a familiar thing. And it's like, no, I can't go that route again. It's like you were able to recognize signs and you were strong enough to walk away. I'm telling you, sis, I have too many ex-clients that are dead and gone right now.
Yeah.
Did not have the strength to walk away. I didn't even have the strength to walk away 30 years ago. They had to carry me out on the stretcher.
Mm.
And for
Mm.
you, oh my God, young woman, after all you had been through, you still had something. You had
Mhm.
something mighty on the inside of you that
Yeah.
made you press, and and you showed God, like, Lord, I'm gonna live. I
Yeah.
shall not die. I don't know if you even knew that scripture that I shall live
I
and not
didn't
die.
know I didn't know any scriptures.
You exercised, you manifested that scripture,
Yeah.
and when God seen, when he's seen that dogmatic determination, he brought people your way, because I don't believe that the Lord will waste his angels' time.
Right.
It's like if you're just on a wheel spinning and going in circles, you're not ready to hear. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you show God, listen, I ain't going nowhere. And
Yeah.
honey, he started bringing them from the north, south, east, and
Yes.
the
Yes,
west.
he did. Yes, he did. And I was so grateful.
Oh
So
my
great.
God.
And I I could smile. I would smile. It was like life was different and life was better. And even though I was afraid, it was so crazy because going through all of that, I lived in a nice house. I let the whole house go when me and the guy broke up. I got rid of the house. It was funny because I didn't have any money. I was sitting on the floor. The guy was what took mayonnaise and mustard and ketchup and poured all over my kids' beds, and he threw them outside. I had gone to church. He threw them outside, and when he did all of this, I was like, man, God, we broke up. So that was a breakup. That was the second guy. And I sat on the living room floor and I said, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do? I have no money. I bought this house when I was 24 years old. Now I'm sitting here, I'm like 29. What do I do? Where do I go? And I didn't want the house. I didn't want anything that attached me to him. I didn't want nothing. I gave him the dog, everything, right? So I said, God, where do I go from here? I'm sitting on the floor. He said, open the yellow pages. Now, at this point, me and God was like this.
Okay, okay.
At this point, God had really shown himself merciful to me. So many times to me that I had no doubt that there was a Jesus. I had no doubt that he loved me. I had no doubt. Like when I went to the church and I felt like, okay, I'm here. And then it was doubt.
Mm-hmm.
There was resistance.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, there was resistance. But finally, when me and Jesus got it and we clicked, he continuously showed me over and over and over and over that he loved me. And because I was lacking love, he filled it and he did not disappoint. When I tell you, he did not disappoint. And even before I opened up those yellow pages, let me tell you this story, and I'll come back to the yellow pages. I was 27, maybe around 27 or so, and I was so frustrated with my life. And I was with that second guy, and I said, what happens when you lose your smile? Because I had nothing to smile about. It just felt like, how did I get in this? How am I gonna, what is going on? And I went into the bathroom and I put my head in the nasty toilet bowl because that's how bad I felt. I stuck my whole head down. My face was in the water. I just kind of laid in it. And I said, God, today's going to be the day that I kill myself. I said, I'm going to kill myself today. I'm not going to live no more. This is it. I can't do this no more. I can't suffer like this no more. I just can't. And this is before I had the come to me experience, right? And I said, I can't do this no more. And I had my face in that toilet bowl. And I said, I'm going to tell you what, God, because, I know you and we got this thing, but I'm still going through all of this stuff because, I still didn't have the counseling, even though I had good people, but still I just didn't have the counseling. I said, what's going to happen today is I'm going to kill myself. I'm not going to do this no more. I said, I have $1 in my pocket. One. I said, my phone bill is $21. Back then, it was only a $21 house bill. I said, my phone bill is $21. And this is my face in the toilet. And I didn't say this to God. I couldn't even muster up the strength to talk to him. It was just in my mind. I didn't say it to nobody. I said, I got $1 in my pocket. I said, if you have somebody give me $20 without me asking, I said, I'll live and I will serve you. So I got up from the toilet bowl, washed my face, took my daughter, and we were walking down Albany Avenue. I was on my way to the doctor's. And as I was walking down, in my mind, walking my 4-year-old daughter, I was thinking, man, this is it. This is the day, and I'm prepared. A lady pulls out in front of me with her gray van. It's almost like it startled me because it was like the way she came out, she could have hit us, but she didn't hit us, but she could have. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. And when she pulled out, her and I began to converse. And she loved my little daughter. And by the time we were done, she said, do you believe in angels? And I said, yes. She said, well, there's a show that's going to come on tonight at 8:00 and you should watch it. And I was like, okay. And then she said to me, would you be offended? And I said, for what? And she handed me $20.
Lord, oh my God, I'm about to scream. Oh my God.
She handed me $20.
Oh my God.
And I knew right then and there, even the more. I mean, if I never knew, I knew right then and there, he hears me, he loves me, he cares about me, he wants my bills paid, he doesn't want me to die, he wants me to mother. And what's crazy about that was her kids had just went to college. She was standing over her kitchen sink and she said, God, my kids are gone. She said, if I have any mothering skills that I can help somebody, please send them to me. I wanted to die. She's standing over her kitchen sink. I'm standing over I'm leaning over my toilet bowl. And God brought us together. And we've been together from that age, from that time to this day. She's been my guardian angel. And not only that, beyond that, God loves me and he cares about me and he cares about my well-being. He didn't let me down. He didn't want me to die. He wanted me to live. And that's why I'm alive today, because I know for sure that he loves this girl right here. So by the time I got to the yellow pages, I trusted him. There was trust. There was so much trust. I said, what do I do now, God? He's gone. I'm sitting here. I got 3 kids. What do I do now? And he said, open the yellow pages. And I opened them. And when I opened them, there was a company called Oral Gratifications. I called them and I said, are you looking for a gospel singer? Because I was singing in the choir. Are you looking for a gospel singer? And he said, yes. Well, how ironic. Yes, we are. He said, send me, a tape or something. Send me something. And I said, okay. But at this point, I needed to get my life together. So God opened up the door for me to release the house back, give it to them. They told me if I cleaned the house out, they would give me $1,000. I needed $1,200 to move into this place where we knew a friend that got us in there. Her name was Sharon. Sharon opened up the door for me and my children, Sharon Branch. She opened up that door. And let me tell you, my father gave me $200. I cleaned the house out and got $1,000. I moved from there down to a place that it was a nice place, but there was urine coming up the steps and everything. But when I tell you, I had more peace in that ghetto place, more peace in that place than I had for years. I lived in there, it was just me and my 3 babies. I said, God, I just want to be safe. There was only one way in and one way out. And I never put a screen in the door. I always left the glass in the door, because if anybody ever tried to break in, with that torment I was dealing with, if anybody ever tried to break in, they would have to literally break the glass thing to get in, and then they'd have to kick the door down. And by that time, I'm already awake. I'm ready for you, okay? So I kept that door locked. And then I had a neighbor, and some people might call her the nosy neighbor, because she was out there watching everything. Missy, somebody came to your door today. Missy, I seen, or she'll tell the neighbors, somebody was riding that car down there. She was a nosy neighbor, but she was my saving grace.
She was your security.
She was God gave me security.
What?
He gave me a glass door. And then in that house, because I had never had anything, in that house, I said, God, I don't want nothing him and I had together. I don't want nothing from the past. I need everything new, everything new. He said, you take care of what you got, and I'll give you everything new. I took them curtains and I tied them up and put the little knots. You know, you do that, right? Put the little knots, and the bridge lights were outside, so they like come through through the house. They're the bridge lights. But I put them little things. I put my couch up against there. I slept on the couch because I was used to somebody sleeping behind me. So the couch was my security for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So I had the couch up there. I'm telling you, I can't even tell you how quickly the Lord took that empty space, turned that thing around, and my house was the nicest apartment. My apartment was the nicest apartment in that complex. That thing turned into a penthouse. Let me tell you, and I didn't even know these hands. This is once again finding me, because this is when I started you know, find and reintroducing myself to me. Or
Right.
forget reintroducing, because I didn't know who I was. This is me learning about me,
Uh-huh.
introducing myself. So before I knew it, Coach Deb, the I had Venetian blinds that went down. The lights from the bridge was coming through my house. I had mirrors reflecting. I fixed up the fish tank with the pretty blue with the lights coming down.
And they were
I
popular back then. The
Oh
fish tanks.
yeah.
Everybody wanted one.
Yes, and the way I fixed it up, it looked like the blue ocean. So the
Oh,
lights was reflecting off. I ordered this burgundy, Swedish looking furniture that had splashes, deep splashes in it. And it was at a 3-piece. I ordered the TV thing, the console thing, you know, the stand, entertainment stand. Ordered one of
console.
those, but it was a unique one.
Yeah. Mm.
And I put some trees up. I put C1, C2, C3 on the bedroom doors like we was in the like we was in a hotel. I fixed up every room. I made that house look like a penthouse. I lit my candles and I lived in such peace. God, did I live in
Oh,
peace. I lived in so much peace.
ooh.
Uh, And you know what I used to watch all the time? Because my life was so tormented. I watched The Little Mermaid every night, just every night. The Little Mermaid. And I'd watch like The Little House on the Prairie and, you know, like the happy shows. I'd love to watch Lifetime, but not the scary ones, only the romantic ones. Then I got this picture, and it was a Black man holding a Black woman, and her head was back as he had his arm gripped around her
Yes, I know the
with this,
photo.
yes, with that sheet thing. And when I put that on my wall and I just kept calling, I said, that's the kind of love I'm going to have. Surely, surely, surely did the Lord send him. Yes, he did. Yes,
Ladies, y'all listening?
yes, he did.
There's glory after this. You better tell them, sis.
Let me tell you something. Now I did get a couple little doozers and floozers, that was trying, and I tried to give him a little chance or whatever, but you already know when little things are not going to
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
Lord just I didn't
It's that
even waste.
discernment, though.
Yeah, I didn't waste time how I wasted time before, like
Right,
years with
right.
this one and years with that one. At this point now, it's like, nah, nah, bro. I didn't do that. And by this time, I had the gift of goodbye. I had that thing down on
That
pat,
part.
that thing was down. So when he came, now before he got
Were you
there,
in the church when he came? Had
yeah,
you already? I
I
remember
was
you
in
had told me about
position.
Bishop Brunner. So had you
Yeah,
got
that was
with
down
Bishop
here.
Brunner?
That was down here in Atlanta. This is still when I was in New York.
No. Okay.
Yes. So I was 36 at this time.
Okay. Okay.
So what had happened with this was I had liked this guy, and it just didn't work out or whatever. And I figured, I came home, I was crying because there was this one guy I had like really, really liked. And when it didn't work, it kind of went left. I came home one day and I just cried, cried, cried. No, and the kids weren't home. So it was a perfect day.
Right.
I ran up the stairs, cried my eyes out. And I had this big, huge mirror in my bedroom. And I went up in there and I just cried, cried. And I got up and I stripped all my clothes off. I mean, everything, underwear, everything. No bra, no nothing. And I was crying. I said, God, I was born naked. I said, I'm coming back to you naked. And I said, I need you to deal with these emotions of mine because I cannot deal with them no more. Because I felt like I had Game Boy on my head, like I was being played. But I know I was a good person, and that's not what I wanted for my life. I laid on the floor for 45 minutes, just crying my soul out. I got up off that floor and I went and I got in the shower. And when I got in the shower, I said, God, I said, I need you to wash away every illegal spirit that has attached itself to me. I took the soap and I bubbled myself up, and I thought about the first guy that touched me and all the ones that touched me and all the ones that said they loved me and all the abuse and all the scars and everything that was not like him. I said, every illegal spirit, I said, remove it. And as I bubbled up and the water hit it, it started going down and it went down the drain. And I felt so fresh when all of those bubbles came off of me, because they were all the illegal spirits that had attached themselves to me. And they all went down the drain. And when they went down the drain, I stepped out of that shower. I dried myself off. I wrapped the towel around myself, and then I went downstairs to another mirror. I said, God, you made Eve for Adam. Now please make my husband for me. I put my hands up in the air and I pulled him down. Like literally, I pulled him down into my loins. I pulled him so hard. And I just believe when I did that right there, God began to activate it. And when he began to activate, I began to speak what I wanted. And I told God what I wanted in my husband. But God did exceedingly abundantly above all that I could ever ask or think. He went above and beyond, because I want you to know this. You know, karma comes in two ways. It'll get you in a negative and it'll bless you in a positive. It just depends on what state you're in. I had given so much love to people. I had given so many gifts to people. I had given so much time to people. I had given so much of myself to people that when God sent me my husband, he began to bring all kinds of gifts to me. All the love that I put out there came back to me. When I served it to them, I served it to them on a plate. But when God gave it back to me, he gave it back on a platter. And I'm telling you, I have so much love from this guy that if right now, if it looked like I'm going to get cut, he's already bleeding. This guy, and it's been 19 years we've been together.
Girl, you better help somebody.
He proposed to me 8 months after we were together. 4 months later, we got married. And we've been together, all together, 19 years. June 18th this year will be 18 years we've been married. And guess what? We don't argue. We don't fight. We discuss everything.
Discuss.
And everything is about truth. And our motto for one another is, if you try to outlove one another, you will never fall out of love.
Ooh, my God, God, God. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know what God told me as I was waiting for him? God said, I want you to find love, joy, peace, and happiness in me. And when a good man does enter into your life, he will be an asset to our love.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key right there.
Yes, that's what he told me.
Because he's a jealous God. He wanted you to bond with him first.
Yeah. Love, joy, peace, and happiness in him. First find it in him. And then when a good man does enter into your life, he will be an asset to our love. He'll be an asset to our love and not an upset.
See, God positioned you for your king, because all the things that you were going through, in God answering your prayer, he wanted to be sure that your baggage had been, you dropped off that baggage. He wasn't going to be a rebound. He wasn't going to be, a puppet. He wasn't going to be therapy. He wasn't going to be any of those things that God wanted you to be. He wanted to be to you.
Yeah.
He wanted you to be healthy and whole. Jesus be a fence.
And
Girl,
what's really cool about that? I felt in myself, that I wasn't 100, because there's still residue. But the
yeah,
thing is, I did enough work.
you did enough
I
work.
did enough work
Did y'all hear that, ladies and gentlemen? She did
that
enough work.
he didn't need a deep shovel for me. All he needed was a rake to rake away all the
Come on, somebody.
leftover.
And you know
That's all he needed.
you
That's
doing
all he
something.
needed.
Hey
He
God.
didn't need, he didn't need no deep shovel. He didn't need no little trowel. All he needed was, because when women come that have been through what I've gone through,
Uh-huh.
it actually allows the man to be a man, because men love to take care of their woman. And if the woman has some hurts and she has to cry on his shoulder, it's not like, and I'm not saying that about nobody else, but for me, I needed to cry on his shoulder sometime. I needed to talk to somebody that I could trust. I needed to be able to tell some things that happened to me and ask him, please don't do that to me. Because, this time I don't know where I would be, I have to be honest. You have to be
So you
honest.
were transparent from the beginning. I want everybody to hear that. You were
Yeah.
transparent from the very beginning. You were honest from the very beginning. You told your truth from the very beginning.
The funny
So
thing
he
is we
knew he
both
was
did.
loving.
Yeah. It was really funny is I was like over the children at my church, the girls, and he was over the boys at his church, youth ministry, right? We didn't know this though. And then when we connected, he had a lot going on when we connected. So we look at the package as it's going to come perfect, because even Jesus didn't look like the package that was going to come perfect,
And they didn't
right?
even know who he
They,
was.
they would have overlooked him. So he didn't come perfect. And I didn't come perfect. So when we sat down at I don't know, it was somewhere in our fourth, fifth conversation, I said, I'm not your girlfriend. So you don't have to hide anything from me. You're not my boyfriend. We don't have to hide anything. Right now, you need a friend. I need a friend. I said, hi, my name is Michelle, and I struggle with, and then I told him what I struggled with. He said, hi, my name is Jay, and I struggle with. And then we started our conversation on building on truth. And some of the truth was cringing. Some of the stuff was like, whoa, really? And there was no judgment zone. We just told the truth. And the truth will make you free. Because nobody can come back and say, well, she or he, nobody could do that. And every little thing that happened, guess what happened today? Guess what? And guess what? Here's another thing. He was in a relationship prior, right? And I was in a relationship prior, right? And there was still residue in my heart for the last person, right? Because we're human, right? He had
Absolutely.
residue in his heart for the last person. Who would I be to judge him to say, she need to be out your heart now because I'm here? Who would he be to say, get that dude out your heart because I'm here? Nope. What happened was we made a conscious decision to love one another consciously. So guess what? Me and that other guy used to talk every single day, right? So now, because I had already stopped talking to him, every time I got the thought, and this is the covenant I made with God. I said, God, I need you to help me get him out of my system. I said, every time I think about him, instead of calling him, I got down on my knees and I prayed, God, take this away. God, take this away and open me up for my newness. Take this away. And I did that and I kept doing that. And within 6 months, because it doesn't go away the first week, but I didn't give in.
Minister to us, sister.
I did
Minister to
not,
us.
I did not give in. And let me tell you something. Flesh wanted me to give in because there was a deep spot in my heart for him. And guess what? I told my friend that I was talking to, there's a deep spot for him. And then my friend, my man, my husband now, told me, that's not love. He didn't tell me that I didn't love him. He just told me that the guy didn't love me. He said, because you really don't know what love is. He said, but I'm going to show you. And guess what? From what my husband has shown me, for me, to me, through me, all of that, it was not love. And if I had to compare it, it would be the seesaw that sits up here and the other part that sits here. And this is what I thought love was. He showed me something. And this is where I said that good karma came back, because all the love that I gave to people that they took advantage of and they cheated on me and they did those things and I didn't get them back. God took all of that and put it on top of this guy's heart for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And one guy I was talking to, I was hidden. But God told me, you are a city lit upon a hill. If I'm a city lit upon a hill, why am I being hidden by a human being? Oh no, I never talked to her. That wasn't my, you were hiding me. But when my true man came, my husband, he held my hand. That's my sexy wife, everything on his social media, my sexy wife, so when people see me now, they'd be like, hey, my sexy wife, hey, sexy wife. Like he puts me up on a pedestal in front of everyone. He doesn't hide me. He treats me as the city that is lit upon a hill. And I believe God had to bring him to me. He had to really show me not just the love that me and God have together, but he had to show me on this earth that I do have a man that can love you and will love you.
Right.
He said, I'm going to show you. And he did just that. And we are still the same from the beginning of us being together to now. Sex is still great. Everything about our relationship, our laughter is still great. The fun we have is still great. We travel together. I'm not bored with him. He could work in his office. I could work in mine. We go to bed together every night. We don't sleep on separate couches or bed or any of that stuff. We sleep in the same bed every single night.
So you're talking about God sent.
God, man, yes.
God sent.
And he comes home. He comes home every day, every night after work. He comes home. He hates that. And you know, I still cry when he has to go drive the truck sometime. He may have to go for a couple days. I'll be at the door crying.
Wow.
And you know what's really, I always think about like dogs, you know, like no matter what you do to a dog or how you treat the dogs, or if you love the dogs, if you forget to feed the dog or the dog got to go to the bathroom and you forget to take him outside, no matter what you do to a dog will come to the door, jumping all around, spinning his tail and all that. No matter what. I said, if a dog can do that for a master that forgets to feed him, I said, my husband don't do none of that. I'd be right at the door, just like the dog. I'd be so glad that he's home. I'd just be so excited when he comes home. I kiss him. When my husband's laying in the bed in the morning, and make sure, you know, I go brush my teeth or whatever. I come back and I kiss his face, 30, 40 times, just kiss him all over his face. Wow. I just kiss him and I present him with love every day. I'll come by and I'll wiggle his toe, you know, because he's on the side of the bed where I go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
So it makes it easy to come back and just shower him with kisses.
Sis, let me tell you, you have, excuse me, you have been such a blessed. I'm a talker, and I'm never lost for words. Never. Honey, way down in my shanana. You understand? When I tell you, I know that there are many, 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 many other women and men listening right now. It's like they're like locked in, just locked in, because you served hope.
Yeah.
You've served hope. You've served encouragement. You've served, don't give up. If you don't give up,
Right.
this is what will happen.
Right.
You have served that there is glory, glory, glory for real after
Yes.
the pain,
Yes.
after the trials, after the tribulation. You have served that God has not forgotten.
Yes.
Please speak to someone. Please speak to someone that, you know, is in a situation and they're fighting to get out, and they figured that the only way out is suicide. Because let me tell you, there's been a lot of women, mothers that have succeeded with killing themselves and killing their children than themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of women have suffered with PTSD, and it's like you really brought to life the reality of the possibility. I mean, we have judged wrong. Do you understand? It's like, oh my God, you made that thing so real to where you can really see that. You can really see that. It's like, God, forgive me. I repent right now.
Right, right.
I repent for judging women and men, people in general that are so lost to the degree to where they want to take themselves out, but they take them children out because they dare not to leave them here to suffer.
Yeah.
Please speak to someone that is battling right now. Give them hope.
You know, I never thought I was going to grow up and ever want to kill my children. That was never my thought. My thought was I'd always protect them. But in the means of protecting them, the best thing that I could have done, the best thing was take your children and give them to somebody who you can trust. The closest person to me at that time was my sister, who was sitting in the class with me. I gave the children to her. I said, just take them. I didn't even want to look. I said, just take them, because I knew what I was going to do after school. Now, I wanted to commit suicide a few times, but the 2 times that I wanted to do it, the one time I wanted to do it with the children, it was going to be a total success. I had already seen it in my head. But I want to tell you this. God himself, all by himself, is real. God himself is real. When my mind was slipping, going to the left, there's a deep cry. Now listen to this as mothers. There's a certain cry that you know when your child is crying that you got to run to them. There's a cry where they're whining, but there's a cry of something is wrong. Mom will drop everything to go to that child. When you're at that point that you want to commit suicide, I need you to take everything in you and give God that cry. And God will drop everything for you. And he will take care of you so you can take care of them. And he will put you in the right position with the right people and put you in the right place that you can go on this journey called life. God stopped me twice from killing myself. It was only God who stopped me. And both times, one time I said, God, please don't let me lose my mind. And as soon as I gave him that cry, that type of cry, I mean, it was like it touched God, where God had to turn around and said, who touched me? Because there is a cry that makes God say, who touched me? The woman with the issue of blood. It was an issue. And right now you have an issue, but it was how she pressed and she pressed and she crawled. She said, if I can just, I don't care who's here. I don't care what they say. I don't care how they're looking at me. If I can just, just touch the hem of his garment, God will help me. If you can just touch God, if you can just give him how you're feeling, if you can just touch him, God will turn around and say, who touched me? It'll make God stop and drop everything that he's doing, everything, to see about you. And when he turned around, the woman was healed that very moment because God stopped. He stopped right what he was doing. And God is a big God, and he's out here running this whole big world, but you are in the palm of his hand. He has your name written in the palm of his hand. If you didn't feel important to nobody else, you're important to God, because every time God lifts his hands, he sees you. And when you cry, he knows. But there's a cry, you gotta press to get to him. And my press was, my face was laying in the toilet bowl, because at that point, I didn't care about life no more. And when you get to the point to where you don't care, that's when God can say, all right, this is where I can come in, and now I can drive. Now you follow what I tell you, and everything's gonna go good. When we follow our own way, our own rules, our own life, pick our own people, do all these things that are not called of God, that's when we can get out there and kind of get messed up. And even coming back to me, at that time, I wasn't doing a whole bunch of that stuff. It was just the fact that God wanted to use me. And I probably had to go through what I had to go through because he had a purpose for what I had to go through.
That part right there.
Because everybody's not doing the bad thing. Everybody's not going to this, and everybody's not doing that. So I was trying to be a wife. I was trying to be a mother. I was trying to do this and try to do that, and trying to work and trying to go to school, and everything seemed like it was just failing. And I just felt like, what use am I? Why am I even here? Kids acting up in school, kids acting up at home, husband acting up, dog acting up, everything acting up. But when I went in that bathroom and I pressed and I gave God that chance, that one last chance before I decided to take matters into my own hand. I gave God that last chance. I said, if you allow somebody to give me $20 to go with this one for me to pay my phone bill, I said, I'll live. And then he turned around and said, watch how I'm going to do you. The woman almost hit us. God's got to do something to shake you.
He's got to do something to shake you.
And when he shook me, it kicked me right into gear. I took that $21 and went on down and paid that phone bill. 2 days later, she showed up over at my house in her little gray van, and she gave me $300. She said, this is for you and your children for the summer.
Ooh, Lord. So when you say yes to the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
takes it from there.
Mm-hmm.
He takes it from
It's
there.
it's in your yes. It's
It's
in
in your
your
yes.
it's in your yes, and it's in how bad do you really want it?
How bad do you really want it?
See, it's not about us because it's a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle. And as soon as you connect with that spiritual part of your life, that thing grows up. And it don't take long for it to grow up.
Sis, come on now.
Because you feed your natural body and we get bigger and bigger and bigger. We can gain weight and get heavier and heavier and
Yeah.
heavier. But if we take the word and feed our spirit, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and healthier and healthier and healthier. So when things come against you, you could say, the blood of Jesus, I rebuke you. No weapon formed against me going to prosper. And when you say it, it's going to come with power, because the more you feed your spirit, the more you put your gospel music on and let your mind meditate on his word, meditate on his word day and night. Just think about his word. Think about him every morning. When we get up, me and my husband and our children, we go out, we pray. We pray. We be like, put 18 angels around each tire, God. Covers from the front of the vehicle to the back. Lord, let our day be good. Send everything to us that's supposed to be here. And the things that's not supposed to be here, we ask you to block them. I mean, and we got the kids praying. We make the kids pray every day. You got to do that, because there's sometimes we jumped in the car and a car jumped right in front of us and almost like we're almost in an accident.
Yeah.
But when we pray, Lord, put the 18 angels around each tire, God, covers from the front of the vehicle and we'll be like, and let my husband be the driver, co-driver, while you be the driver. And then at that point, I sit back like this. Oh, he's in control.
And you sit back in peace. I'm glad that you're just making it perfectly clear that where you are today, you didn't get here on your own. Where you are today, it came from you having a relationship with God, was surrendering your whole life, your whole self to God.
Yes.
What is your legacy? What is it that you want people to remember you by?
So I think about Sojourner Truth, because I used to play her.
I love her and Harriet Tubman. They're mentors in my head.
Oh,
I believe I carried them in my shanana somewhere.
Yeah, I played
her
in a play for 5 years, and the way that she lived her life and what she left behind, people remembered her as an abolitionist,
yes,
as
sir.
as a person who cared.
Oh, yes.
A person that changed things. And that's what I want to do. I want to go out and change the dynamics of women, men, girls, boys. I want to change the dynamics of their mind. See, for the women, I want to release them out of the bondage in their mind that they live in. Okay.
So
but
you're talking about strongholds.
Those strongholds. But for the men, I want them to see what happens when you do these things to little girls that can actually mess little girls up to when they grow up. It ruins a lot of their life and they have to fight to get it back. So I want men to see this. I want young boys to see this at an early age so they don't do that to the next girl. I want teenagers to see so they don't do that to the next little girl, and I want the women to know you are not alone. My legacy is that I want to pull them out of the deep depth of bondage that they're in, and that they're not alone, and they don't have to just get over it.
That part.
No, because you don't just get over it. And that's why some people's marriages are ruined, because they've never been healed. They've never been set free. They don't know how to let a man really be in their life because of the men that have done things to them. So they never let go of that. So they never really trust. And, you know, for me, I ain't even gonna lie to you. Trust for me was very hard. Very, very hard.
Thank you for acknowledging that. And
Mm.
the process of healing is still in place, right?
It's still in place. And you know what? I'll always be healing.
Come on, sister.
I have residue left inside of me. And I'm glad God gave me a husband that I have, because even though I'm sweet, I'm nice, I still have my days. And some days when I have to maybe holler through the house, my daughter will say, Mom, that's such a piercing holler. And it's like, it's still in me.
That's why
You
we
know?
need God, sis.
Yeah, it's
That's why
still in
we
me.
need the relationship, the prayer, the fasting. That
Yeah.
stuff is real now. I'm telling you,
Let
you
let
can't
me
do this
tell
by
you,
yourself.
it is real, because what we watched as kids, you know, my parents were fighting left and right, left and right. We were sitting on the steps watching them fight, beating each other, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, police coming to the door, all the screaming, hollering, being arrested, taken out. And this is what we hear, you know, it's just in me. But I did enough work. I did enough work to where basically it's not something that consumes my daily life. I don't do that scream every day, but every once in a while when it comes out, my husband hear it, and I'm not screaming at him. I'm like screaming at the kids or something in the house, like, I told you that, you know, the regular mother thing. But
Yeah.
every once in a while, it may have to go up a notch. And my daughter will remind me, Mom, that piercing scream. I'm not perfect at all, but there's things in me. I used to get beat across my back all the time with switches and sticks, right? And if somebody comes up behind me, hey girl, everything in me does this. You see how my shoulders are? And my eyes, I can
They,
just feel it,
everything constricts.
everything. And my fists ball up sometimes, you know, because a long time ago, that kind of stuff really, it really changed who I was. Because before you start getting beat in your back, I used to wash dishes. And if I took some of the silverware and threw it back there, we had silverware for days, okay? We had the double sinks. You know, back in the day, those double sinks were those deep sinks, right? And I had to wash everything. I had to do the dishes. I had to take the trash. It was like I was like that Cinderella. And I was throw the silverware back there sometime. And one day my mom came up and I was just standing there, and this hand just came like this, like from behind. And I wasn't allowed to turn around, and I wasn't allowed to look. I look at her, she said, turn around. And I have to finish washing dishes while I'm standing there crying. Then she'll call my father. My father would come down, and he took a switch and he would hit me across my back. Stuff like that. It paralyzed me for a long time. So because it doesn't happen often, people just don't come up to you often and just slap you in the back or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When it does happen, it takes me back. And that's not, to me, that's not being healed.
Talk
It's,
about it.
it's just something that happens because it's not something that happens often.
That's your process, though. That's the
Mhm.
human side of you.
Yeah.
That is like when we deal with, things that arise, because I believe that we have to continue seeking God. We have to continue praying. We have to die daily, because you're gonna deal with sin on this earth, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only way you overcome, the only way you get out is through staying in tune with
Right.
God. So
You
you're
better.
showing the humanity side of it.
Yeah,
you're,
you
you're
better
just
stay.
letting everybody know, yes, I have overcome, but I'm still
Mhm.
human, and God is going to be working on me till he take me home. So see,
Yeah.
that's what you're letting everybody know, and that's what I want everyone to know. I want them to know that whenever you give God your life, you are not perfect, and you cannot live a perfect life. You fall, you
Yeah.
get up. He
Mhm.
is our helper. He is
Mhm.
our strength. We would go right back to where we come from if it were not for him.
Let me tell you something. This is so funny, but you know, I grew up, I told you I didn't grow up in church. So it's Teddy Pendergraft, Stephanie Mills, Freddie Jackson, all these people, right? And all the cursing. I mean, English was our second language, cursing was our first. And in my house, my dad, every other word, blah, 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 blah. My mom, you know, it's just cursing, just a lot of cursing. And when I grew up and I got saved, you know, the Lord really worked on me and I stopped cursing. And I wasn't a cursor until a dog jumped out. And when the dog jumped out, scared me so bad, I was like, oh.
I think everybody do that. Oh my
And you know, I'm like, oh God, man, I'm a Christian. The kids were
Oh my
shocked. They were shocked, like, I mean, the dog jumped out. They stopped in their tracks, like, you cursed?
It ain't
Forget
gotta
the
be no
dog.
dog.
Forget the dog. So then,
You know,
you
dog.
know, sometimes we get
You
so,
just get spooked. It ain't gotta be no dog up
sometimes we get a little self-righteous, right?
there. Ooh.
Sometimes we get a little self-righteous, right? Can you still hear me? So we get a little
I'm still
self-righteous.
cracking up. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's funny. So we get a little self-righteous, right? And I moved down to Atlanta. And when I moved down to Atlanta, you know, a lot of church people curse, like they'll say certain words and stuff and all that. But I was not used to that in New York, where we came from, because my pastor, she didn't play none of that. So because I was like really, as they say, sheltered, like a sheltered Christian, you know, you got that hard pastor. She don't play.
I know. I came from it, honey.
I got down here, and you know, they was free with the saying the bad words, and so I would be going home talking about, I don't know how they, you know, curse like that. It's Christians don't do that, and that. So first of all, judge not, lest you be judged. You know, and you know, I didn't. I was just thinking, man. So it had just got like, man, I don't even want to be around the curse stuff. Man,
Southern
COVID came.
Christians.
COVID came. And we sitting in the house, and I had 6 boys in here because, you know, I had adopted some boys. I did foster care. And when I tell you, them kids took me to a whole nother, forget level, to a whole nother person. I'm telling you, you know, they say, let's go back to the old time ways. It was like I started saying bad words, and I was shocked that I was saying it. And I was like, oh, COVID. We were sitting in the house for that.
COVID.
We sitting in the house with kids and can't go outside. And you got kids fighting each other all day. And it was just horrible. I was just like, so I was like, man, at this point, get your Ray upstairs. Oh, Jesus, I said the bad word. And next thing you know, it's like,
how did the kids look at you like,
yep. But after about 6 months into get your little way upstairs, and it was just like, man, Mom, you just really in it.
Now, the kids are the ones that are judging, though. It's some kids now. Now, let me tell you what we're gonna do, because I don't want us to lose. I don't want us to lose any of this good. I want you to go ahead and tell everybody how they can actually follow you, how they can buy your book. Tell them anything that you want them to know. If you can, for bookings, if they need to reach out to you for, you know, maybe a chat, because listen, you're that sister that everybody would just want to have in their life. You are that person that people just want to just have fun with. You know, we need girlfriends as, you know, women that are healing, and you have made this just so comfortable, you know. And listen, we can do this all night long, all day.
Yes.
But I want you to go ahead and talk to everyone and let them know how they can find you, follow you, reach you, contact you, and all that great stuff.
Well, listen, if you want to connect with me, You can find me at Michelle, Michelle, Elizabeth Williams.com. Michelle Elizabeth Williams.com. That's my website. On Facebook and Instagram, it's Michelle E. Williams 98. Michelle, Michelle, Will E, another E, Williams 98. That's all of my social media you'll find me on.
Okay, now tell them about your clothing line, and also tell them how they can get your book. Does Amazon?
So if you go to my website, Michelle Elizabeth Williams.com,
all that is on there.
You will find my clothing line. You will find the book, and you can purchase the book actually Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and if any of those are sold out, you can just go right on any engine and you could just look for the book. Nobody ever told me. You can look for that, and it's Michelle Elizabeth Williams. And when you find that, you can order it. If you want to personally order from me, subscribe to my website, Michelle Elizabeth Williams, and I'll have something set up there where I can personally mail them to you and give you a signed autograph copy.
Listen, I'm elated, I'm wild, I'm intrigued, I'm fascinated. We could talk, girl. We could talk eating popcorn, child. We could talk about so much. This has been so good. This has been good. I know that everyone is encouraged. Everyone is motivated, inspired. I don't care what your gender is, honey, male or female. This right here touched everybody. I know the men got mamas and sisters and cousins, and this right here was everything, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, y'all show some love to my sister and make sure you visit her website, go on her IG page, see what she's doing. Y'all know that she's a psalmist. She'll sing a church down, honey, and make the rats run away. Y'all need to make sure y'all look up my sister. And let me just speak to those of you out there. If you are contemplating suicide, if she spoke to you this very day, help is available to you. All you have to do is press 988, not 911, but 988, and help is there for you. If my sister spoke to you and you are in a domestic violence situation, help is available for you. All you need to do is dial 800-799-7233. If my sister spoke to you and you are one that is sexually abused, there's help for you. The number is 800-656-4673. Let me just tell you the importance of sharing. There's not a testimony without a test. Everything that you go through, if you're in the situation, it's harder for you. It's challenging to believe that you're really going through something that God's going to use one day. But if you just hold on, if you trust God, if you seek God, if you follow God, He will bring you out, because the word of the Lord says in Revelation 12:11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So you see, again, there is glory after this. There is glory after all that you go through. This too shall pass. You will get through it. You will. And there are people that can help you. But you've got to fight. You've got to stand. You've got to stay steadfast. You've got to show you want to live and that you will live and you will not die. My sister right here, she is living proof, and it's so many like her. It's so many like her. This is not a made-up story. This is a true story. This is a true story. She did not add or take away. And the thing about it is, she didn't even give you the full story. She done been living 40-something years, and throughout her life, it was so much more. Come on now. It was so much more. I believe you'll get the gist of it if you buy her book. Nobody told me. Y'all get this book, buy the book for yourself, gift the book to someone that need a blessing, that need encouragement and empowerment. Oh God, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so full. Remember to follow Relationship Lounge, Reveal and Heal on Facebook. Remember to follow I'm Not Okay Why on Facebook and IG, both on Facebook and IG. Relationship Lounge also has a YouTube page of the lives that I do for the podcast and for the radio show. So you can go and you can look at it on there. And ladies and gentlemen, the podcast is on all podcast outlets, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon, everywhere you can hear these amazing stories. I am so full. Remember, you can't heal what you won't reveal. Remember to love yourself, love everybody, and be an example. I'm Coach Deb. Have an amazing day. You deserve it. Thank you so much, Queen.
You're welcome.